Hi everybody, it's Maya Zahira here, and I'm just really wanting to connect with the community in this video today. I'd like to follow up on some information that I shared last week in a blog post, and I'm going to review some of the information of what I went over and just talk a little bit about what happened and about some of the information that I've learned. And actually, I've learned a lot. So just recapping for those of you who did not see the blog. Here it goes. This is kind of weird to talk about in a video. So, long story short, I came in contact with some people in my local spiritual community who unfortunately had some dark entities attached to them. And by dark entities, I don't mean like a friendly ghost. I mean some really, really nasty crap, like demonic type stuff, like very, very dark, very evil. And because I came into contact with these people, I ended up experiencing really extreme psychic attack. And I want to just stop right here and point out that this video and any of my other public announcements, you'll notice that I'm not in any way giving any identifying information about who this was concerning, who the people were, etc. Because that's not what this is about. This is not about calling people out or pointing fingers, because all that does is cause separation. And that's not what I'm about. I'm about creating connections and about helping spread positive information and healing, knowledge. Knowledge is power is one of my new mantras, about spreading knowledge, information, empowerment, not judgment at all. Compassion, love, but also having the knowledge needed to have the healthy discernment that we all need in order to stay safe. Okay, so that's my little disclaimer. Okay, I feel very strongly about that. So no identifying details, okay? But my focus is on my own experience. And by the way, I experienced this with some friends, so I was not the only one. And so my focus is on my own experience and also the valuable, super important information, knowledge, and wisdom that I have gained because of these experiences. So when I say that I experienced psychic attack, that can mean a lot of different things. And I actually teach workshops on psychic self-defense. It's one of my favorite topics to teach about because I've had some history. I lived in a haunted house several years ago. I learned about psychic self-defense that way. I've had some different experiences over the years that would be pretty average types of experiences. So the average type of psychic attack would be, let's say there's someone in your life who's jealous and they're just sending you just some bad vibes. They're having some negative emotions about you, and emotions are energy, and they're just sending that to you. Knowingly or unknowingly, right? And then you pick that up, you feel that you can feel that there's some negative energy coming your way, or it might even make you feel emotional. That would be an example of a mild psychic attack. Mild attacks are just are totally valid, and they are upsetting in and of themselves. Okay. But what I experienced was not a mild attack, not a mild psychic attack. I would categorize it as an extreme psychic attack. Again, that occurred as a result of being in contact with some people in the community who, unfortunately, I'll just speak generally and say that unfortunately their energy wasn't clean and clear. They had some stuff attached to them. And whether they are knowing or unknowing, whether they are aware or unaware, well, we're not going to go into that today. But there are people out there who knowingly send bad energy to people, and people who are not aware. And I think once I go over some of my information in this video, I think some of that might make a little more sense. So the attacks that I experienced involved entities, not your friendly ghost. I'm not talking about a family member who's passed on and they come and visit and it's a lovely and comforting type of spirit connection. That's not what I'm talking about at all. I connect with ghosts all the time when I'm doing one-on-one sessions and group sessions with people, and I'm used to seeing ghosts, and I don't find that frightening at all. Seeing loved ones is a wonderful thing. So if I'm not talking about ghosts, what am I talking about? I'm talking about entities. Some of them I would describe as demonic. So some of them, I'm not sure if they were actually of the demonic race, but they were very, very evil. So I was attacked by these entities, and to give you an example of what I mean by attack, in one of the situations, now let me just backtrack. The attacks went on for a couple of weeks, and during that time period, here's one example of one thing that happened. Okay, so this is a public video. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty details, but in one situation, I was sexually violated by an entity. And in another situation about a couple of weeks after that, and there were attacks going on regularly, but a couple of weeks after that incident, I was attacked so violently that the entity tried to tear my soul out of my body. And I'm just stopping now because if I had never had that happen before, I would have a hard time relating to what that would be like for someone. And so if you're someone who hasn't ever seen evil spirits, or maybe you don't believe in that sort of thing, if I had any doubt about those kinds of beings before, I have zero doubt now. It was very, very real. And in fact, the most violent of attacks, where the entity tried to tear my soul out of my body, that was so terrifying for me that I was sobbing and hyperventilating for hours afterwards. And I consider myself to be a pretty tough person who doesn't scare very easily. Like I said, I've seen ghosts for, ever since I was a kid. So I don't get scared about things like that. This scared the crap out of me because I didn't know that they could attack you like that. I thought that maybe you could see something that was scary, but it couldn't actually do anything to you. In that particular incident, it actually had a message for me, and I'll share part of that message. I can't share the whole thing because it would identify someone, but the entity said, "Don't mess with so-and-so. She's mine." Because the thing is I was able to see the energies and the truth about some of the people. And so that's why I was attacked. And some of these entities involved were really threatened. Because just imagine, okay, I know that I'm stretching some of you a lot. Like you're thinking, has Maya gone off her rocker? And I really haven't. I actually, as I mentioned before, there were 2 other women who also had contact with these people, and they went through really extreme attacks as well. And we spoke every single day, and sometimes for hours. But I want to just have you imagine a scenario. Let's say that there's an entity attached to someone who's a spiritual teacher or a healer. And now dark entities, how they work is they're not beneficial ever, okay? Dark entities are not good. You do not want them connected to you. You don't want to be working with them. You don't want them anywhere near you. So let's say that there's a spiritual teacher or a healer that has a dark entity attached to them, either knowingly or unknowingly. And then what happens is that dark entity then has the opportunity to to energetically feed off of all of those clients or students. And so if someone like me comes along and sees the truth, then I'm going to be a really big threat to that entity's food source. And that was part of what happened. That was part of why I was so violently attacked. And what I had to do was cut off all contact with anyone who could possibly be directly or indirectly associated with that entity. Actually there were a few, but directly or indirectly associated with the attacks. I had to cut off all contact and focus on clearing. I had to do more than just sage. Sage didn't do anything, as you saw in my last vlog. This stuff was so powerful. That was another thing that was so terrifying about it, was that my usual tools, this stuff was so strong, my usual tools were not working. And so I had to use exorcism strength tools to move this stuff out. And the reason why I'm able to even talk about this as calmly as I am is because how do I want to put this? Well, of course, I worked on clearing everything out. I talked to every resource, every person that I could, asking for ideas. And I also did a huge amount of self-care. In fact, today is my first day back after having nearly a week off. I've taken a lot of time to strengthen my own energy and do a lot of emotional healing as well, because what happened was really, really scary. In fact, when the whole thing was happening, I had to take 10 days off. And then I tried to go back to work, and I found that I was having difficulty because I had been through something extremely traumatic, really terrifying. And so I just took a week off. I am so glad that I did, because now I feel really grounded. I'm not coming from a place of fear. I'm coming from a place of having gone through and survived something really dangerous. And I'm really, really grateful for the knowledge, for the wisdom that I now have. As I mentioned, I did a lot of research on the best ways to clear this stuff. And so I was able to clear everything out. And in the process of doing that research, I came to understand why some of these things occur, why these entity attacks, psychic attacks occur, why this actually does happen in spiritual and healing communities. And so I've got some notes here. I'm going to read off some key points of some things that I've learned. Actually, maybe just giving the little tip of the iceberg of some concepts that I've learned about. And it would take hours and hours to go through all of this. So I'm not going to go into details with each item, but I think just going through this list is going to be super valuable for you to hear about. Now, again, this might stretch your beliefs a little bit or a lot. If you were stretched about believing in dark entities, I totally get that. Some of the things that I'm going to talk about now might stretch you in a different way, because I'm gonna talk about some aspects of how the world works, and you might prefer to believe that everything is just love and light, and there's nothing bad out there, and there's no bad people. And so if you'd like to just stay in your happy little bubble, then you might have some trouble with this. As you can tell from my video, I'm not a negative person. I'm actually a very heart-centered person. I'm a very loving and compassionate person. I believe in the goodness in people. And so even though all of this stuff happened, with all of the healing work that I've been doing on myself, I'm now to a point where I feel so much compassion for the people involved. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to go seek them out, because I still and try to interact with them, because I don't want to restart any more psychic attacks. I do not wish that to happen again. But from afar, my heart is filled with compassion and understanding, because, we're all human beings living on this planet. And there's no reason to come from a place of judgment. So you might want to take some notes on this. Okay, so I'm going to go over this list. I'm going to be teaching more details about these items. So if there's anything that is of interest to you, then send me a message and let me know. Okay, so the first item of all these really important things that I've learned through this recent experience: how and why entities, when I say entities, I'm talking about the dark stuff, how and why dark entities attach to people, especially people in roles as spiritual teachers and healers and light workers. Why entities are attracted to attach to those types of people. There's a reason. Okay, and I teach about that in my classes. I didn't clarify this before, but it's my understanding that this is not just in my local area. This is all over. So I'm not in any way calling out my city or anything like that, because I have friends in 2 other major metropolitan areas who have gone through something similar. So this is a systemic issue throughout all different aspects of society. Number 2, how the dark disguises as light. And so we have light, we have the all of those things that are from God, which I'll refer to as the light. And then we have dark, we have evil. And there are entities out there that are dark entities that disguise themselves as light. I have a colleague who calls this the imposter energy. It's when someone, well-meaning, thinks that they're channeling an ascended master or an angel, and it's actually a dark entity in disguise. And that might sound really paranoid, but it's not. It actually is happening. And so, discernment. Don't just, if you are channeling or working with spirit guides or beings of any kind, you really absolutely have to use discernment. And if something doesn't feel right about that being, they might not be who they say they are. Okay, so there's a lot of imposter stuff going on with beings pretending to be something that they're not. A dark entity pretending that it is an angel, and it's not. That phenomenon has been known about for eons. I was raised Catholic, and there's books about that, about the Catholic saints who, sometimes would have beings of darkness appear pretending to be of light, and then the saint wouldn't be fooled by it. And then anyway, so I was when I was a kid hearing stories about that. I hadn't even thought about that until recently when I started doing some research and reading a lot of books about this. There's a lot of imposter energy out there. So use your discernment. Another thing that I learned about was the process of how a dark entity attaches to a practitioner or spiritual teacher. And then through that practitioner or teacher, that entity then has access to the clients and students and feeds off of those clients and students. Another thing that I learned about was something really fascinating, and this is what I would call a spiritual anesthetic. A spiritual anesthetic is how an entity that's working through a spiritual teacher or healer can actually hook. So it's connected to the teacher, and then it connects to the client via the practitioner. What happens with the client or the person attending the group class or whatever, the person begins to feel bliss and euphoria. And because they're feeling so much bliss, they think, oh, this must be a really great healing session, or this must be a really amazing healing group session or whatever. And what's actually happening is that the entity is emitting a spiritual anesthetic. So that as the entity is hooking in energy cords to the person, so as they're getting plugged into, they're not able to feel it. They're not able to feel like they're being drained of life force or manipulated. They're actually being made to feel bliss. And when they feel this bliss, they're totally oblivious to the fact that they're getting hooked into, they're being plugged into. And it's much like when you get a bug bite, when a mosquito is biting you, or a tick bite. And even a friend of mine was talking about leeches. Leeches actually, when they connect onto your skin, they produce this painkiller, and all sorts of other chemicals. So you have no idea that it is that it's sucking your blood. Okay. So it's the same thing. And I explain this because I have talked to friends who have said, well, yeah, but I felt wonderful when I went to that session, so it must be good. And so I want to explain about spiritual anesthetic. I'm all for feeling wonderful and feeling happy and feeling uplifted. But if you go to a session or you go to a class or whatever, and you suddenly are overcome with a totally different feeling than what you walked in the door with, be very careful and be very aware, because something is happening. Okay, so use your discernment. I'm not saying that bliss is necessarily a bad thing, but it is a red flag if you go to a session or a class and all of a sudden you're having these feelings of euphoria and bliss. Something is plugging into you. Could be. Okay. The next item that I learned about, or it was just more clarity about how in the New Age community, there's this really strong belief about how darkness or evil does not exist, and that we are all one. And because we are all one, everything is love. Now, on one level, it's true that we are all one. We're all part of the same energy, and we are all love. But what's also true is that there actually is evil in the world. There's not only evil actions that human beings take, but there are actually evil entities. They do exist. One of the things that I observed is that this common belief that evil doesn't exist and that evil entities don't exist is a great way for the evil entities to just have a heyday. If this whole group of people doesn't even believe that exists, then how easy is it for those entities to plug in? Because those people don't even believe that it exists. So sure, it's easy to plug in. Yeah. So, dark entities love it when people don't believe that dark entities exist, because it makes it very easy for them. Another thing that I learned about firsthand was about how dark entities literally feed off of life force. They actually will plug like a cord, an energy cord, and they will just suck energy. Usually they won't suck so much energy to make the person die, but just enough so that they can continue to have an ongoing source of energy. Okay. One thing that I noticed when I did really, really high-powered energy clearing to clear out these entities was, at the same time, I inadvertently cleared out a whole huge amount of mild psychic attack from a variety of different people over the years who've sent negative vibes. So I cleared out the big stuff and all of the smaller stuff that had been having an effect on my energy. so the people who sent mild attacks, that didn't have to do with entities, but psychic attack in general can suck your energy away. So when I cleared out all of this stuff, my health has improved 50%. I mean, I'm going to exercise classes now and doing stuff that I did not have the energy to do. So I really see and understand in a very real way in my own health about how dark entities and psychic attack in general it sucks your life force energy. Dark entities specifically, they do plug in and they suck energy. I actually know some of the people who have dark entities attached to them are experiencing ongoing chronic health issues because the stuff that's attached to them is sucking their life force. That's not always, by the way, just a little FYI, that's not always the reason. If someone has a health issue, it's not always caused from an entity. But just so you know, sometimes it can be. Okay, so especially the types of issues where you are, the types of health issues where you're exhausted. Yeah. Okay. Another thing that I learned, and I'm almost done. I think this is the last thing on the list. Another thing that I learned is that once this entity relationship is already started, okay, so there's entity, it's attached to a person. It could be someone in the spiritual community, but dark entities attached to all sorts of people as well. But let's just say we've got an entity, it's attached to a person, and then that entity attaches to other people through that person, okay? So once those attachments are made, once those people are plugged in, I actually have been calling it the matrix. Once those people are plugged in to the matrix and they're being influenced, and it's like they're under a spell, and they're anesthetized. It's like they're put asleep so they can't see what's really happening. Once those people are plugged in to the matrix, it is very, very hard for them to see the truth. So I've noticed, and I've only shared the details with people in my close personal circles, my close friends. But even with that, I've noticed that if someone is already plugged in, it's really hard for them to see or recognize what's happening. So you may, in this instance, you may be able to think of someone who in your life, whether it had to do with an entity attack or just a person who was not beneficial, and they were manipulative and doing abusive things and sucking life force, sucking energy from someone. If you went to your friend and you said, this person is doing some things that are not good for you, why can't you see this, and I want you to be safe, oftentimes the person that you're trying to help gets defensive, refuses to believe what it is that you're telling them, and actually will get angry at you. And sometimes they'll even go away. They'll say, I'm not your friend anymore. So you may be able to think of a time in your life when you have tried to help a friend who was plugged into their own little mini matrix with someone who was an energy vampire sucking their energy. And when someone is plugged in, they're under manipulation, and it's really hard to get through to them. Okay, so just that reason alone is why I am sending this video out to the public, and I am also incorporating a lot of the new things that I've learned into the classes that I already teach. So the reason why I'm incorporating and teaching all of this stuff is to help educate people, so that you will have the knowledge and the information and the wisdom to be able to use your own discernment, because I'm not the energy police. I'm not going to go around, saying who's good or who's not good. That's up to you. That's up to you to gain whatever information that you can and use the healthiest discernment that you can with the people around you and the energies around you. Through this whole recent situation, I was just really surprised at the degree and the depth that all of this matrix and this dark energy was at play. I mean, I know sometimes I've gone places where there was maybe energy that wasn't that good, but I really had no idea that it was like so. It's a matrix. It's just really blows your mind. Some key things to remember that I really want to encourage you to focus on being in your power. Being in your power. Don't be in fear or paranoia. And there might be some people who say that I'm paranoid or that you're paranoid. But what does that mean? That means that you're believing something that seems a little scary. Well, you could be paranoid, but that doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. So just don't be in a state of fear. Don't be in a state of fear. Don't be overly paranoid about everything around you, because being in fear is it's a great way to make yourself a target for a psychic attack. So you don't want to do that. You want to stay in a place of love and knowledge. Remember what I said earlier, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. So gain whatever knowledge that you can. Focus on being empowered and trusting yourself to have the healthy discernment that you need to make choices. The difficult thing is that even if you think that you have good discernment, there are a lot of things that are not what they seem to be. And that was really tricky for me in my healing process, was to be looking at discernment for myself and seeing that there were people that I trusted and they weren't who they seemed to be. And so, that took a whole rearranging of my thinking. But you want to keep your energy strong. And so instead of being in fear, you want to focus on keeping your aura strong, staying grounded. Keeping your energy strong is one of the best things that you can do for psychic self-defense. It's just like brushing your teeth every day. You want to cleanse your aura. You want to keep your energy strong. You want to balance your chakras and keep those strong. And keep your physical body strong. Eat healthy. Get plenty of sunshine and fresh air. All of those things are going to keep you in a stronger state. However, as was the case with me, because I already was doing all of those things for myself, when I came into contact with some people who had nasty entities attached to them, those entities were super strong. And so it didn't matter that I meditated every day. It didn't matter that I was at a high vibration of love. It really didn't matter, because those energies still hooked in and did all sorts of attacks. So that's where your discernment comes in. That's where you're going to really need to reevaluate the people around you and even your own spirit guides and your angels. Some of you who work with spirit guides and angels, I want to tell you very clearly that it's actually a really good thing to question your spiritual teachers, your healers, and those on the other side, your spirit guides, your angels. It's a really good thing to question them. If someone is really walking in the light, then they are not going to be offended or angry with you for wanting to make sure that they are of the light. They're going to be really happy that you are doing that you're thinking for yourself, and that you are making sure that you're only working with people who are of the light. If you have a teacher or a healer who gets angry or defensive at you, questioning them a little bit about what kind of energies they work with, then that actually is a sign that they might not be the right fit for you. Okay. So to end this video, I have, I have 3 classes coming up that I think can be very, very useful for you. And some of these items that I just touched on, I actually go really deep into these classes. The first one is Empowered Reiki Master. This is not the traditional Reiki Master certification. This is a class that's available to anyone who is advanced Reiki or above. And I teach you all of the important aspects of how to be a leader in how to be a spiritual leader and how to be a leader as a healer. And I give you a lot of tools for what you need to keep yourself healthy in that leadership role, so that you don't accidentally pass on negative energy to your students or your clients. And I know if you've watched this video this far, you are someone who's very conscientious and you really want to be cautious and careful with your energy. And so if you're not sure if you qualify for that class, just contact me. It's I consider that to be, if you are an ongoing Reiki practitioner, I consider the Empowered Reiki Master class to be one of the most important classes that you'll ever take. The other class I teach is a 1-day workshop. It's Psychic Self-Defense Certification course. And it's what I describe, what the title explains. It is all about all of the different kinds of things that are out there, why you need psychic self-defense, and a lot of different methods for protection. And then the final item on the list is my Create course. This is a 12-month program for women. And I teach you all about energy healing and keeping your energy strong. I teach you about intuitive development, psychic self-defense, and much, much more. In this class, in the Create class, which is a 12-month program, that is the class where I teach the exact methods that I used to clear out this recent extreme psychic attack. I don't teach those methods at this point in my 1-day workshops, and the reason is because these are they're not difficult techniques, but they are advanced, and it's also very personal for me to share the techniques that worked for me. I don't want to be putting those techniques out in public for the people involved to see how I cleared their stuff from me. That's for my own protection. So I teach it to my students that I have known for a while. So in that 12-month program where we have an established relationship and they get to learn about those techniques. Well, this video is about 45 minutes long. So I just really wanted to get this information out there to the public. I know some of you have been worried about me. And so as you can see, I am healthy and strong and happy, grounded, heart-centered, feeling fine. I'm still focusing on self-care, and really empowered now at this point, really in a place of empowerment, and super grateful for all of the knowledge that I gained through this experience.